Imagine it's 1870, you're a U.S. Army soldier stationed in Texas. An urgent family emergency calls you home. Today, we're going back in time, traveling from San Antonio to Austin by Stagecoach. What would that journey really have been like? First question, could soldiers even take emergency leave in 1870? Yes, they could. Since the American Revolution, the U.S. military had a system called a furlough, unpaid leave granted for emergencies. By 1870, formal leave as we know it today didn't really exist yet, but commanders could grant furloughs or short passes, usually for urgent family matters. So our traveling soldier, totally realistic. Now how would he get from San Antonio to Austin? Stagecoach, of course, the backbone of long-distance travel across Texas. He'd follow rough dirt trails, often little more than widened wagon paths through the countryside. Stagecoach travel wasn't for the faint of heart. You'd bounce in an enclosed wooden coach pulled by 4 to 6 horses for 18 bumpy, dusty hours. And if the road got muddy, expect delays. You'd travel through places like New Braunfels, San Marcos, Menchaca Springs, all vital stops along the old San Antonio road. Every 15 to 30 miles, the coach stopped at a stage station to change horses. If you were lucky, there was a hot meal or a rough bed. Hotels like San Antonio's Central Hotel, or the Veramendi House, doubled as stage depots in those days. Stagecoach lines like Brown and Tarbox Harrison and McCulloch and others fiercely competed for passengers. They promised superior coaches, fast horses, and polite drivers. The Houston to San Antonio trip cost $20, a small fortune back then, and took 5 grueling days. Texas roads in 1870? Most were dirt trails laid down during Spanish and Mexican rule, just widened enough to qualify as first-class roads by county standards, 40 feet wide, small stumps cut flat, bigger stumps rounded off so wagon wheels could roll over. Back in the 1800s, mail was a lifeline. These dusty Texas roads weren't just for cattle drives and settlers. They carried the news, the money, and the voices of loved ones across hundreds of rough, muddy miles. Mail delivery wasn't exactly what you'd call reliable, though. Most of the mail coming into Central Texas had to pass through the ports of Galveston or Indianola. Coordinating that mail with stagecoach departures? That caused delays all the time. A San Antonio newspaper in 1848 even complained, "We receive but 3 mails a week in this, the most important and populous city in western Texas." And those came the long way, through Houston, Washington on the Brazos, and Austin. To make it all work, the Republic of Texas, and later the U.S. government, awarded contracts to stage lines. One of the most ambitious mail efforts of the time was the Butterfield Overland Mail Company, which ran from 1858 to 1861. This wasn't just a Texas operation. Butterfield coaches carried passengers and mail from St. Louis, Missouri and Memphis, Tennessee, all the way to San Francisco, California. That was nearly 2,800 miles, and they were expected to make that run in about 25 days. A serious feat, given the terrain and conditions. While the Butterfield line didn't cut directly through San Antonio, it's an important piece of the mail story. It showed just how vital and how daring mail delivery had become in that era. Whether you were in a big city or a remote frontier post, those stage lines tied everyone together. Stage stops doubled as post offices, money order stations, and even makeshift banks. The mail coaches might have been bumpy and unpredictable, but for settlers, soldiers, and business folks alike, they were the only connection to the outside world. Here's how the mail connected to the forts across Texas. Fort-to-fort routes were essential for communication. Many Texas forts, like Fort Davis, Fort Concho, Fort Stockton, and Fort Clark, were established to protect settlers, stagecoach lines, and trade routes. These forts relied heavily on mail delivery to receive orders, supply updates, military news, and correspondence with higher command. Mail routes were often specifically designed to connect these forts, allowing them to coordinate patrols, report on Indian movements, and stay in touch with military leadership in San Antonio or even Washington, D.C. The military relied on mail just as much as civilians. Orders, intelligence reports, supply updates, all of it had to be delivered by hand, on horseback, or stage. That meant mail lines were designed to connect the forts, and the Army made sure those roads were kept passable. When a stage pulled up to a fort, it wasn't just dropping off mail. It was delivering critical communication that could change strategy, alert troops to danger, or relay news from Washington. Forts also served as regional post offices. If you lived out near Fort McCavitt or Fort Lancaster, that's where you picked up your mail. Some forts even handled money orders, acting as a primitive bank for settlers and soldiers. Stage lines like Brown and Tarbox, Wells Fargo, and others often made their headquarters in hotels and taverns near these forts. For $10 to $20, you could book passage and send a letter, both of you riding the same rough trail. It wasn't glamorous. You might be crammed into a dusty coach eating cold biscuits at a way station in Seguin, with Indian country just a few miles off the road. But that mail line? It was the internet of the 1800s. It kept Texas connected, town to town, fort to fort, and coast to coast. Stage lines like the San Antonio-El Paso Mail, the Butterfield Overland Mail, and later, Wells Fargo, ran right through or near military posts. Why? Because the forts offered security from bandits or Indian raids, fresh horses or mule teams, a safe place to rest or repair, and reliable locations for mail handoffs. These routes were often built along military roads connecting forts, making the Army and the mail service logistical partners in keeping the frontier running. Many forts served as de facto post offices for settlers and soldiers in the area. Since towns were few and far between, folks nearby would ride to the fort to pick up or send mail. Some forts even issued money orders and provided other postal services, making them vital to frontier life. The U.S. government subsidized these mail routes not just to deliver letters, but to ensure communication across a wild and largely lawless frontier. The mail wasn't just for civilians, it was the military's communication backbone west of the Mississippi. Passengers rode along with the mail, crammed into tight, often uncomfortable quarters. If you carried extra baggage over 30 pounds, you'd pay for it, 6 cents a pound. And you weren't traveling alone. The guy riding shotgun wasn't just company, he was there to fend off bandits. After nearly a full day of bouncing along Texas trails, dusty, sore, and maybe a little rattled, our soldier would finally reach Austin. In 1870, a journey we now make in just an hour was a full-day adventure. Stagecoaches connected cities, carried families, mail, and dreams across Texas, one jarring, jolting mile at a time. Next adventure from Austin to Dallas by Stagecoach.